I feel like we should be applauding. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here. My name's Colleen Hayward. I'm privileged to be on the board at Fremantle Footy Club. I'm also privileged to have been part of the selection process, which was a fantastic opportunity and experience for me, mostly because it showed me more about the calibre of the club. Before we get into that, though, I'd like to officially welcome you not only to Fremantle Footy Club, but also to the country on which we stand. You will all know Fremantle's proud history with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander players. As a Noongar person, it's therefore my pleasure to welcome you to Noongar country. We stand proud and with a particularly proud history, not only within the Fremantle Football Club, but also our foundation clubs of East and South Fremantle. So fantastic for me to be involved, fantastic for you to be here, and I thank you once again. So I want to talk a little bit, I think, about how historic this is. I know that our women's team is not very old, and I know that the history that I'm about to relay was always going to happen sometime. But the fact that we've got a past player, returning to the club, to me says lots about Lisa as a person. It also says lots about our club. Because if our club culture wasn't good, we wouldn't have been able to drag her here kicking and screaming. That says so much. So much. I have to say too, the process was robust. For the number of selection panels on which I've sat over decades, this was probably the most robust process in which I've ever been involved. You may know we had a couple of stages of interviews, as well, of course, as consideration in detail of written applications. On the second interview, people had to do a presentation. What do they think about the game? What do they think about how they can prepare for the season? What's the game plan? How will they help players improve so that everyone reaches a higher potential than they might even know they're likely to get to? Lisa was able to demonstrate all of that. In fact, she left all of us, I think, on the panel really excited by not only the presentation and her commitment to it, but also we just want to get into the season and see it happen. That's exciting. It's especially so for us. So Lisa, returning, having gone through a rigorous process, coming back to a club that has a proud history and a great culture. It's absolutely wonderful that you're here, that you've said yes, and we're definitely looking forward to the next few years, not only to see that game plan put into action, but you'll all know, of course, we have an ambitious strategic plan. So no pressure, but, there's a few things that we're looking forward to seeing in the next little while. And with that, as well as thanking you again, I'd like to hand over to Simon, our CEO. Oh, and can I just mention, although he's hiding in the background somewhere, Dale, our president. Oh, there, yes. So, yeah. It was fantastic, and I thank you, Dale, for providing me with the opportunity to represent the board in this process. So thanks, everyone. Simon.
That's 2 rounds of applause at different press conferences to what I'm used to. I just want to start by thanking Colleen for your involvement, your guidance throughout the entire process. There's 2 things to having Colleen open up something like this. One, you could listen to her all day, I'm sure you're aware. The other thing is she's a really hard act to follow, which hasn't made your and my job easy. Lisa. But thank you again, Colleen, on behalf of the Dale, the board, all of our members and fans, because your involvement was critical. Today's an incredibly exciting day, as Colleen mentioned. I'd like just to reiterate, we set ourselves, a task of finding the best available AFLW coach for our program, and we're really pleased that we think we've managed to achieve that. The fact that after such a thorough process that provided a significant amount of really worthy candidates, we've found someone that has a fair bit of purple flowing through her veins is a real bonus for us. So it's incredibly exciting now that Lisa gets to, along with her fellow coaches, Bob, who led the process and our program, and our players, look to re-energise and revitalise our program as we look to push forward to a new era within our AFLW program. Is incredibly exciting, and we can't wait to see what that provides. And it just so happens, I've just been informed that today's announcement coincides with the fact that on 5 years ago on this very day, Lisa made her debut at Optus Stadium and had a pretty handy game, she tells me, as well. That last bit's not actually accurate. So with that in mind, folks, I'd just like to throw it open to you guys to ask Lisa any questions that you'd like to. Over to you, Webby.
Okay, we're done. No.
What does it mean to be the first former player to return to your old club as a coach, and secondly, the second player to graduate into the coaching ranks?
Yeah, I'm really proud. It's a great day for my family. My mum and dad are here today, and they've provided me with the ability to do this. There's obviously been challenges on the way, being a mother of two, but with the support I've got from my family, but also the club, I couldn't be prouder to be back here today.
What convinced you to put your hand up and take part in the process?
Being here before, I know the resourcing, I know the people here really well. The playing group, the cheeky playing group that I've got to my side over there, to work with them again was something that I never thought would happen, but I'm really blessed because it's a difficult, with 18 teams now, it's really challenging to get your opportunity, so I'm really proud to get it.
You've never led a program before, you obviously have experience as an assistant. What sort of gives you the confidence that you're ready to take the next step?
Yeah, I've been a teacher for over 12 years. I've led programs at school level. I've been head of sport, acting head of sport. So I've had a lot of leadership positions, which gives me good practice for this going forward.
I guess how much did the players influence your decision to come back and to take the role?
Yeah, it was more about what I could do. Did I feel that I could impact this group from a coaching perspective? Because there's obviously some really talented players here and players I've got connections with, but for me it was, do I think I can improve? Do I think I can make a real impact on this group? And for me that was something I believe I can do.
I'm sure you've got close relationships with a lot of the playing group though.
Yep.
Were there a few reaching out when the kind of position was open, trying to egg you on to really go for it?
Oh, a little bit, but I just screen their calls most of the time anyway, so it's something I do well. I just have to, but even this morning, obviously the text went out and a couple of my friends, one of them, Epps, hadn't messaged me, and I was like, oh, here we go. And she was on night shift or something like that, so she said she'd slept through the messages because I hadn't told her that I got announced, and she was filthy. She found out through the media, but that's the way it is, Epps.
New relationship now.
I guess the sides had a little bit of a dip the last few seasons after having a fair bit of success before that. How big is the challenge of kind of returning to the top and vying for a first premiership? Yeah,
always a challenge, but I think what the strength is, they've got some great leaders here, but also their core group of young players. They're fantastic, and I think there's a lot of growth for them. So that's something, as a teacher, that I'll best prepare myself to ensure that we get some growth, a lot of growth out of the younger players as well.
I guess, how did you see the process? Colleen said it was very rigorous.
Yeah.
Was that kind of how you felt through the whole
Yeah,
thing?
you're not wrong, it was good. But that's a good thing because then I can stand up here today and be really confident that I'm the right person for the job. It was a lot of time and effort put into preparing what I did, and I'm just really glad that they liked it. And I got the job.
That's obviously a big decision for your family as well,
Yeah.
to come back to Perth again.
Yep.
I'm sure they're on board, they're making the move as well.
Yeah, so the boys will come over. Mark is obviously firmly committed to his work with the Bulldogs, but we've done this before. We know we can do it again, and as I said, I've got strong support, whether it's my new 30 babysitters, my mum and dad, or anyone else. I think I'm well equipped to go through this again, and obviously, Mark's been a great support through this, so we're really proud as a family.
The time to get in his ear and try and get him back in Perth as well.
We'll see.
How long did it take you you got offered the job just sort of come to a decision? Because anyone would normally jump at it, but the family thing, I'm imagining, did play into your decision making?
Yeah, and it is a challenge, and we'll work through it. But school holidays, mum and dad have given them the elbow. They'll be flying the boys back to work through that. So it's just how we best get out of it, because it's going to be a challenging for me as well as being a first team coach. But it's really important that I make sure that my family's looked after as well. And the club were really supportive of that. That we put in some steps to be able to fly them home and make them feel as comfortable as they can as well.
Obviously, you had to present your sort of vision for the team. What is that? Can you, without giving the opposition too much of a heads up, what is your vision for Fremantle?
Yeah, I know. The Bulldogs will be listening to this. Yeah, there's a lot of work. I mean, there's a lot of great things that Trent's done over the years. He's obviously really well led. But in terms of where I see, we've got great inside players, how we can get the ball outside, how we can have maybe a greater connection piece, and our ball movement will be something that I'll be focusing on, especially with the younger players.
How hard is it at the moment with kind of the season, the details around the season still a little up in the air? Kind of when do you think you can actually get cracking on kind of getting the team together and actually getting some proper work done? And
that's something that Bob and I are definitely going to have to work through. I was calling him Robert for the first part of the interviews, but now it's Bob, so I'm happy about that. That's certainly something that I'm going to have to work through because I'm not privy to all of it. I know there have been meetings that they've been had, but obviously newly appointed, it's just something that I'm going to have to work through over the next few weeks. So I'll be going back to Melbourne today, and then I've already hit them up for a computer and getting everything sorted, so I can obviously stay in touch with the girls. They'll be nagging me on the phone, no doubt, so that's just part of the job.
When will you have a chance to address the players?
Maybe today. I'm always in contact with them. It's one thing that I really feel connected to with this group. We probably haven't really left, I may have been gone a few months, but we've always stayed connected. So I will come back and obviously see the girls before I actually start. So that's something that we've put in place as well, so I can still come back, have chats with them, do some training sessions and work through that.
What's going to be the main message that you're sort of trying to get across to the group?
Treat me the same as you always did, which is firm. These girls are hard. They like teasing me, so I don't want any of this kindness now. I don't start being... When I walked in here today, everyone was so happy and nice, and I was like, that'll last a day and then it will change. So I want to challenge them, though, as well. I know they want to be challenged. They've got a real thirst for learning, and that's something that I really want to drive with them.
How much of a motivation is it to try and win Fremantle's first flag as well?
Yeah, I'd love to. Obviously, with a strong connection to this... 5 years, it's crazy to think where we've come. I remember only a couple of years ago, I was walking down the stairs a week after having a caesarean as an assistant coach. So to think how far I've come, how far the club's come, I think there's a real opportunity for us, but I'm really process driven, so I try and really think about what I can do in the initial stages first before we push on to anything else.
Where do you think the playing group is at sort of emotionally coming off a disappointing season and then losing the coach? Like, is there a need to galvanise?
Yeah, I think so, but I think that's probably one of my strengths is being able to galvanise with these girls. As cheeky as they are, we have a great connection. Hayley wore the same top as me here today, so if that's any good indication, we're on. But no, I think that's probably going to be one of my strengths is being able to connect with these girls and make sure we're all working in the same direction together.
That's it, guys? Nothing else? Fantastic. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, you guys got anything, mate?
I guess, Simon, how kind of excited you to have a former player coming back to the group?
Yeah, it's incredibly exciting. I think it's a real sign for the competition as well as our club. It didn't, in reality, have any bearing on the decision itself. As I said at the outset, it was a really nice bonus. Lisa was a fantastic candidate amongst a really strong field, but in the end, it was a unanimous decision, and we're really pleased off the basis of her capability as a coach and a leader. I think you've just heard then, and I think it's pretty obvious the way she's going to be able to lead our team in a number of different areas. Even just the example I think that Lisa's already set for a long time and will continue to do so in relation to the balance. She's as driven, as competitive as any, and will drive our program to success, but understands the balance and need for her to ensure that Mark and the boys are the absolute priority, and that sort of thing is critical. So the playing and assistant coaching elements are a real bonus. Lisa earned this on her own right.
On the process, how much kind of throughout from start to finish did you consult with kind of the players and the leaders amongst the playing group about kind of which way you were leaning? Yeah,
it was more an information update into timing and the like. processes like this, if you're going to run them properly, can't have external influences from stakeholders, or you can't go in with a preferred candidate in mind, for instance. They've got to be run in a way that's completely professional and objective, and that was what was occurring. Obviously, as you get to understand, our players rightfully were really interested and enthusiastic and know how it's progressing, but we feel like they certainly trust us to run the process in the right way to come through with the best candidate. And I know Bob was in constant dialogue in that regard from an update perspective as much as anything else.
During Collee's time with the club, how kind of early did you maybe identify her as someone who could potentially step up to a role like this in the future? Yeah,
I only personally overlapped with Lise for a bit over a year, and all my dealings were certainly left me with the feeling of being incredibly impressed on a whole number of levels. But from my perspective, obviously, there's people here who've had a far greater personal connection and professional connection with Lise. So it was certainly something that assists in your knowing from, I think, things like character and resilience and inner drive and that type of thing. That was certainly a well-known quantity.
Obviously, she's at Fremantle earlier, but became a bit of a Dogs family for a while. Is there something about Freo kind of taking people from the Dogs community and bring them over here?
Yeah, well, she's definitely the best one we've got from the Dogs. No offence, Robert. But no, certainly nothing intentional. Obviously, there's relationships that you have, and again, all jokes aside, you understand the qualities of some people, and you bring them over because of what they can do to add to our culture and environment, which is our overriding priority. So it really has nothing to do in reality with the jumper that they might have worn previously.
A bit left. How's the kind of the fixture and everything looking, and how's that kind of tracking towards getting some more results out of that?
Yeah, I think it's imminent. We're certainly enthusiastic, and Bob and Darren and our team are having regular discussions with the AFL to get some more clarity and surety on that. My understanding of feel is that it's probably going to be a very similar structure from a season perspective as the one we've just gone through in season 7. So we're still, awaiting confirmation of all that type of detail.
Do we need a longer season length to improve the competition and give it more legs?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one because we're obviously still in the early stages of that, and I think the obvious answer to that question is, we should try and make it equitable and play each other once and continue to expand the season, but that could have some flow-on impacts that might be unintended as well too. So I think it's a really important one for the league to consider and think about. We've obviously just had a significant expansion with all 18 teams being in the competition, and so I think that's the one they're really thinking about in a deep manner to make sure we continue to build and grow as quickly as we possibly can, but doing so in a really sustainable way as well.
Obviously, on the strategic plan, which has been mentioned, there's a couple more years to tick that box.
Three.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like a premiership could be achievable this year, or does there need to be a bit of wiggle room for Lisa to find her feet?
Look, you certainly haven't sat here today and caught up with Lisa and said it's premiership or bust. By any stretch of the imagination, we're an aspirational club. We set ourselves some pretty lofty targets, and that's something we'll never recoil from. And we do that with the knowledge of what's happening behind the scenes and the work that's being done, the quality of the people that are already within the program. And I think it's a really important point. We feel like today's a really significant day because of the person that we've brought in, but we're also incredibly confident and excited about the people that are already involved, whether it's our playing group, our coaching staff, our administration and our AFLW program. We're as well-resourced as any, we're as committed to it as we possibly could be, and we think there's some really exciting times ahead. Timing of that, we've obviously set ourselves the target of doing that within the strategic planning period, which we think is entirely achievable. Won't set a ceiling on this year, but I'm very, very confident that we're going to be able to achieve some pretty special things over the next few years.
And it was obviously a high-quality field of candidates, but what set Lisa apart?
Yeah, I mentioned a couple of attributes before in terms of her drive, her competitive nature, her resilience. They came throughout. I think Colleen touched upon it throughout the process because clearly they're all great characteristics and kind of a requirement in an AFLW senior coach, but you clearly need to have a technical capability as well too. And Lisa really impressed us in relation to how she sees the game, how she sees our squad, where she sees areas of improvement. And again, she's going to add greatly to that, but we feel like it's really important that we put resources around Lisa to support her and the team in that regard as well too. And I touched upon it before. I think Lisa sets a great example of a contemporary coach in the AFLW environment who wants to succeed as much as anyone else, but has got more important things in her life as well too. So making sure she achieves that balance, and we assist her to do that.